At 4:17 in the morning, in fog thick enough to erase the pier, the bell at Netherton Shoal rang 11 minutes before the watch heard a ship. That is the ordinary version of the note. It appears in a salt-damaged service book between boiler pressure readings and lamp oil counts. That's one line, written in a careful hand, says the bell answered the vessel before the vessel answered the bell. For years, the line was treated as a keeper's mistake. Fog stations were noisy places. Bells, whistles, sirens, and later horns all had their own rhythms, and sound over water could mislead even trained crews. A signal could bend, vanish, or seem to come from the wrong bearing. The clean explanation was simple. Someone heard another station and wrote it under the wrong tower. Then the second object appeared. It was a brass clock dial, recovered from a locked drawer during a private estate clearance in 1988. The dial did not have hours. It had 4 tide marks, 2 pressure marks, and a narrow red tooth fixed just ahead of the striker arm. When conservators turned the mechanism by hand, the tooth advanced the bell by 680 seconds. Not 12 minutes. Not 10. 11 minutes and 20 seconds. That number appears again in the Netherton papers. It is penciled beside 3 vessel names, a pressure gauge sketch, and a cable route drawn under the shoal. The cable is the part that makes the archive difficult. Netherton was listed as a fog signal station, not a wireless station, and not a time station. It should have warned ships of a coast they could not see. It should not have been listening to anything beyond its own bell. The first hypothesis was practical. The bell may have been coupled to a submerged warning system. Submarine bells were tested and installed in the early 20th century as another way to guide ships through poor visibility. If a receiver on the shoal heard a vessel's own bell or propeller note before the crew heard the station, Netherton could have seemed to answer first. But the objects do not fit a simple receiver. One drawer contained wax cylinders marked only with coloured pins. On 3 cylinders, the same sequence appears. 2 short strikes, a pause, then a long strike, always before the keeper's log mentions the ship. The cylinders are not recordings of fog. They are cleaner than that. They sound like tests. The second hypothesis was administrative. Netherton may have been a calibration station, built to compare sound signals with time signals. By 1907, accurate time had become part of maritime navigation. Ships needed dependable clocks, and harbours used public time signals to help set them. A fog bell that rang early could have been a crude way to account for delay. Sound travelling through air, sound travelling through water, and a keeper trying to bring both into the same minute. That explains the clock. It does not explain the map. The map is the third object, and the reason the file was never catalogued with ordinary lighthouse material. It shows Netherton Shoal, but the pier is too long. Behind it is a grid of streets, warehouses, and basins that were never built. The handwriting is illegible now, but the drawn harbour is clear enough. The bell was not marking ships already in the channel. It was marking berths in a planned harbour that did not exist. There is a quiet kind of ambition in the archive. No war plan, no grand conspiracy, no secret city under the sea. Just a proposed harbour, a sound station, a time mechanism, and a group of engineers trying to make fog behave like a schedule. The project failed for ordinary reasons. The shoal shifted, the cable trench filled, wireless operators made shore messages faster than a bell could make them precise. By the time the last Netherton inventory was written, the station had been reduced to 1 service hut, 1 striker, and a pile of spare brass tags. Those tags are the final piece. They were first assumed to be vessel names, which made the opening note so strange. A ship heard before it arrived. A warning sent before the danger was visible. But under magnification, the tags do not match ship registries. They match the map. Basin names, pier arms, loading gates. At 4:17 that morning, the bell was not answering a ship. It was ringing for a harbour that had not